Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Pulls Pod. Following two games in space of 4 days, one away at Aldershot and one away at Gateshead. Two very contrasting results, even though they both finished a goal to nil. One in favour and one against. I was at both games, and another lad who was at both games was BBC Radio T's Rob Law, who joins me for the first time, which I must admit is all down to me. I have never asked him before, and quite frankly, it is a disgrace, and I do apologise to everyone listening, but thank you very much for joining me today, Rob. How are you?
I'm all good, mate. No problems at all. Not offended in the slightest. But no, thank you for having me, mate. Always good to chat to you, and I often see you at a few of the games. So yeah, good to be on, pal.
Thank you very much. And to be fair, it was going to come round at some point to say I've had on, and I get round to everyone at some point. But eventually we've got there, and let's crack on. We'll start with Aldershot 'cause that was the first game that we had. We'll start with the bad one first, and we'll come on to the better result as of last night. We are recording this on Wednesday, by the way, as opposed to the usual Thursday. So if anything does happen tomorrow, by the time this releases on Friday, I do apologise, but we're not that good. We can't see into the future. But we will start with Aldershot. A nice. Oh, I think it took me about 6 hours. I think 6 hours down the mainly the M1, I think, along with the M25 and other assorted roads. But in the end, it was a bit of a shame, really, because it felt like we created the chances. It felt like we were good going forward without being spectacular. And unfortunately, Robert, just felt like there was nothing at the end of it in terms of converting the chances.
Yeah, it was exactly that. Just the lack of a clinical touch in the box when it matters, and yeah, a bit of a frustrating afternoon that one, wasn't it? Aldershot away, their goal, little touch of fortune, a deflection, taking it over Harvey Cartwright, and as we all know, it would have had to have been something special to beat Harvey Cartwright on current form because he has been the find of the summer for me. I mean, just absolutely spectacular signing, and the amount of times he's been man of the match this season probably tells you just how good he is. But yeah, against Aldershot, that deflection on the way in, taking it past him to give them the goal, and then Pools just struggled to really find that final touch and that little spark of creativity which has been lacking in recent weeks, obviously up until last night. But speaking specifically about that Aldershot game, it was that feeling of deja vu of weeks gone by, of just not getting that spark in the final third when they sorely needed it. And it felt like the longer the game went on, they weren't getting any closer. And Aldershot did what they needed to do, managed the game really well. There was a little bit of heat in there, wasn't there? It was a little bit spicy at times, and none more so than Tommy Widdrington on the touchline, giving it rock all, even splitting his pants at one point. I don't know if you saw that, Jack, but when he got booked for sort of swatting the ball away as he was trying to waste time, the ball came right into his dugout, and he sort of jumped up and swatted it away. And as he did so, when he landed, he put both hands on his backside and then realised he'd split his suit pants, his very nice suit pants. So yeah, I guess that serves him right for trying to waste a bit of time. But he was certainly box office on the touchline, and Poole certainly weren't box office on the pitch. And unfortunately, Aldershot got the win, and it was a case of, well, this really puts a lot of pressure on the Gateshead game last night, and thankfully, Pools were able to respond.
Well, I mean, I made the point to the Shots media as well. I was obviously sat right behind you pretty much at the time. I made the point to the Shots media about Tommy Widdrington, as you've suggested there. Liverpool had played Atletico Madrid during the week, and Diego Simeone had been sent off for fighting with the Liverpool supporters.
Mm.
And I said to him, I think this is the most animated I've ever seen a manager on the touchline. Every time they'd done something, because they were shooting towards, it's very difficult to say our end, so we were at the other end, but
Mm.
they were shooting towards Tommy Widrington's dugout, shall we say. And every time the defence went wrong, or we created a chance, or anything in any manner went wrong for shots, he was basically halfway down the touchline screaming, especially at the poor, I think I'm going to say left back on this
Mm.
side. Like every time, Charman beat him down this side. Oh, I hate to think what he was like in the dressing room afterwards. I think it's probably wise that he was obviously red carded, so he couldn't do any media afterwards, because that'd have been a very interesting interview to see as well.
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
yeah, I mean, speaking of Charman as well, we'll give a word to Charman because in recent weeks he's not exactly set the world alight in terms of goals and assists, etc. But he's been very solid, I think. And speaking to him after the game on Saturday, he was very hurt at the result, but he did also mention, I know to you afterwards, he seems very confident, self-confident in himself at the moment.
Yeah, I'm so pleased for Luke Charman because the things that he went through off the pitch last season, I don't think people really realize the depths of where he was at and the things that went on. Nothing to do with football, just life. And life affects all of us in different ways at different times. And it's often the thing that flies across your path when you least expect it that wipes you off the feet the most. And that was certainly the case for Luke last season. And he got a lot of stick when he came back after a bit of a break and didn't quite have the effects that I know he would have personally wanted. And I know he has very high standards of himself. He's very self-critical. You know, he looks back at his games and he picks it apart, and he'll certainly really analyze where he's at in any particular game. And you know that sort of compounded things on the pitch with everything going on off the pitch. So to see him this season, granted, having to bide his time, you know, he wasn't the first pick for Simon Grayson. He's
No.
had to show what he can do on the training pitch. He's had to really double down on that, and he's had to be patient. And then when he's had that opportunity, he has taken it. And again, last night I thought, without necessarily being head and shoulders above everybody else, certainly thought he was one of a handful who were really impressive and really trying to take the game to Gateshead. He had a touch in the assist to Topolage's goal as well, but so pleased for him. And obviously we can't currently speak to the players or the managers before or after games, but I'll always go down and just shake the hand of Simon Grayson, or you know, and say hi to the players or whatever it might be. And I said to Luke Charman, I said after the Aldershot game, you know, you wore your heart on your sleeve to this afternoon because he was everywhere. And I don't know if you remember, Jack, but there was a point where he was fighting tooth and nail to win possession. He ended up on his backside, still kept hold of it, pulled himself to his feet, still had hold of it. Then he kept hold of it and released the pass. And when he released the pass, the person who he passed it to then gave it away. And I said, you did everything you possibly could today. And he said, yeah, thank you. He says, it's nice to be in a good place.
Yeah,
And I feel like I'm in a good place again. And I think, you know, that is one of the main reasons we're seeing him now. I think this is the real Luke Charman that we're seeing now. This isn't a flash in the pan. This isn't, you know, just a hot run of form. I think this is the Luke Charman that we didn't see last season for a whole host of reasons that weren't necessarily his fault. So really pleased for him.
absolutely. And to be fair, I think that incident that you mentioned, I do remember pretty well. I think it was up against two or three Aldershot
It
players at
was,
the
yeah.
time. I think that may have been one of the ones where Tommy Widrington raced halfway down the touchline because in that
Mm,
situation, there was no way that three defenders should be basically out muscled and outgunned by one lone winger. And
yeah.
as you say, there was a lot of instances on Saturday that he won the ball or he kept possession, he drove the play forward, and then the next pass after him was the one where we gave it away. And unfortunately, his contribution wasn't really taken into account as much
Mm,
because nothing resulted from it. But that's no disrespect to him. He's been very good, certainly since he came in at Southend. It was the Southend game, wasn't it, where it turned
yeah.
red for him, and he's done very well since. Looking at the differences between the two games, we saw the usual formation, the usual system, if you like, on Saturday, where it didn't really come off for us, despite creating quite a lot of chances. But yesterday, we lined up with a back four. Whether that was necessity because of the amount of injuries we've got to centre
Mm.
backs at the moment, I would suggest it probably is. There certainly wasn't any defensive reinforcements on the bench either, which we'll come to in a minute. But do you think that we looked better with the back four, considering how many chances we created going forward? Or would you think when McNally comes back in, when we have extra reinforcements in that area, do you think we're better off going with the back five and perhaps playing two up front?
Yeah, it's a tricky one because I think Pools are a little bit stuck between a rock and a hard place at the minute. I think Alex Reid needs somebody to play off him, and I think Danny Johnson needs that also. So whether it can be a big man, little man, as we saw with Desiree Wayne Gray in seasons gone by, but I feel you get the best out of Alex Reid with somebody working off him, and likewise for Danny Johnson, as I say, whether that is Verdane Oliver with one of those two, or if it is those two as we saw at the start of the season. The problem with playing the two up front is they seem to create more in a game when they start with the back four, and they have certainly, I would suggest, they've created more in the times they've started with the back four. The problem with the back three, to not to flip flop constantly between the two, but they were able to take their chances, but without creating a whole host of chances.
Yeah.
So it's what would you rather? Do you trust your strikers to be more clinical? And in this moment, you could argue that they're not in form and they're not as clinical as I'm sure they would hope to be, and hopefully that will turn. Or do you go with the formation that is creating you the host of chances? And I mean, the amount of opportunities on goal last night was incredible. So all you need is that little. You need one of those to go in out of the 27, 30, 27 to 30 odd chances that came in on goal last night for Pools. So it's a real bit of a bit of a mix, a bit of a conundrum, and it's something for Simon Grayson to try and figure out. I mean, it's hard to argue against the amount of chances that they created last night. The thing I would sort of put in there with just a little caveat is that, and this is no disrespect to Gateshead, I thought they played their part in a really good game last night, and they were better than I thought they would be, considering they have the worst defence in the National League and have conceded a bucket load of goals already this season. Um, you know, I just think that may have played a part in it. Confidence being low for Gateshead, defensively not being very strong. Pools low on confidence, but creating a lot without really punishing them until Topolage's goal. So it's a bit of a mix. If I was Simon Grayson, and obviously I'm not, I've got a little bit more hair for one. He's slightly taller for another. But I mean, you would stick if going by common sense, you would stick with the formation that creates you the more opportunities. And at the minute, that seems to be with the back four. We saw it last night. We saw it against Aldershot. Albeit at Aldershot, they just didn't have that final touch in the box when it counted. Last night they did. They got a bit of a rub of the green with the goal, which goalkeeper Teenan Brooks probably should have saved. But that is the National League, and that is why a lot of the players are playing at this level, is because they can pull off brilliant saves 1 minute and then not quite get there in the next minute. So yeah, if for my money, I think the back four seems to be working. It might just take a bit more patience, and it might just take the strikers and the creative players a little bit more time to find that confidence, and hopefully last night helps.
Absolutely. And I mean, you mentioned about creating more chances with the back four. That is certainly the case, certainly looked like the case last night. But I think it's not been to the detriment of the defence. I think Quorgan and
Yeah.
John were both excellent last night. They were both colossal, if you like. I
Mm.
saw a couple of comments on the Gateshead sort of Twitter feed where, fans were chiming in, not good enough, unacceptable, etc. But they were also pointed out specifically number five, which I believe is Quorgan. It
Yeah.
was monstrous. He was colossal. I think Cameron John's had another excellent game. I think he's been fantastic throughout since he arrived from York as well. And the player that you mentioned earlier on in Harvey Cartwright, he doesn't necessarily have too much to do in a game because of the protection that he gets. But it's a testament to how good of a keeper that he is, that when he is called into action, 99% of the time, he does tend to make big interventions, as you saw with the last minute save last night.
Yeah, can I have a minute to just like absolutely be the president of the Cameron John fan club, please? Go. I feel like I think it was Dougie, well-known Pools fan, who got the Fergie exceptional flag
Yes.
made up for the for the Neil
That must
Cooper
be in a
stand.
that must be in a museum somewhere now.
Well, I was going to say we need sort of like a Cameron John sort of repeat because he is exceptional. So, Dougie, if you're listening, get the Cameron John flag made up, my friend. I love everything about him. I think he reads the game really well. He's not afraid to put a foot in. And when he gets the opportunity, he is not afraid to drive forward, as we saw last night on a few occasions as well, where he sort of pulled Pools up the pitch, got him into the a centre back midway inside the opposition half. How often do you see that? And Cameron John just makes it look really easy. Manages to find this space and time at periods in the game. So a lot to like about him, and I totally agree. You know, whether it is the back four or a back three, Pools this season have been defensively very, very sound. And any manager you speak to from any level of the footballing pyramid will tell you that good teams are built on solid defenses. And for the first time in what feels like a long time, Pools finally have a really solid, reliable back four. And that's even with injuries. So Tom Park's missing last night. Reece McNally looks like he's going to be out quite a while. Will that force Pools into bringing in some replacements just to try and give a little bit more depth there? But last night in that back four, Max Coogan, brilliant, really strong. I thought he had Kane Adom just on toast every single time, didn't he? He just brushed him off as if he was like a younger brother who has just learnt to walk, and he was like, right, there you go, Bosh, off the way, out the way, that ball's mine. And again, made it look so easy. Harvey Cartwright, already said, but 7 clean sheets that was last night for this season, I think.
Yes,
Um,
7 out of 11. That's right. Yeah.
yeah, so brilliant from him. I just hope Pools can keep hold of him in January, on loan from Hull City, of course. But there is an option there for Hull to recall him if anything happens come January. Hopefully that isn't the case. Hopefully he sees the benefit of playing week in, week out, and certainly he's not doing himself any disservice, is he, at the minute, because he's putting in performance after performance. And last night, again, as you quite rightly say, not a lot to do for the majority of the game. A couple of saves in the first half, very little to do in the second half, right until Frank Newell just cushioned a pass into Adom, who let a shot go inside the area. And I thought, oh no, this is going in. And Harvey Cartwright, with the reflexes of your favourite feline, just managed to get down to his right and stick a big old paw on it to deny them an equaliser. And that, again, is the mark of a really good goalkeeper. Despite not being called into action often, when called upon, is right there to answer that call. And yeah, so that is the positive for Simon Grayson going forward. That no matter if it's a 4 or a 3 or whatever he decides to go with, he can have confidence in that back line, and hopefully that will stem a little bit more confidence further up the pitch.
Absolutely, and it is credit as well. I've mentioned it before on the podcast, but it is credit to Simon Grayson because at the start of the season there was a lot of sort of furore about the goalkeeping position. He'd signed a lot of players in a lot of positions, but
Yeah.
Adam Smith was still starting as of the last friendly, and there was a lot of panic. I mean, I myself was thinking like we do desperately need a goalkeeper, but he was very calm about it. He did say over and over again, "I'm waiting for the right one. I'm not going to take the plunge and just get a free agent for the sake of it." And he's found absolutely the right one, and hopefully he doesn't do a Race Cleary, spend a half a season on loan and realise he's better
Oh,
than us.
hey. Oh, let's hope not. We have to give an honourable mention to Nicky Featherstone here, because I understand that Nicky Featherstone's links with Hull
Oh,
City are one of the reasons why Pools managed to get Harvey Cartwright. So yeah, I think there was a lot of people looking at that throughout the summer months, thinking, yeah, all these new signings are great. Alex Reid, yeah, brilliant. Max Coogan, good signing. Reece McNally, good signing. So on and so forth. But the one overriding position that hadn't been addressed was the goalkeeping position. Now they've got Harvey Cartwright. They haven't looked back since.
yes, and another signing from the summer, part of that back four as it was last night, previously back five, was the man whose last name has been pronounced at least 56 different times over, well, the last 7 weeks or so in Basat.
Topolage.
Topolage is what you're going for.
Yeah.
I've seen
Well,
it spelt and pronounced many different ways. It's the
yes.
same as Quorgan. I've been saying Quorgan. I know you've just said Coogan.
Coogan,
I've
yeah.
heard people say Keegan. Honestly, I've heard all sorts. But yeah, Basat Topolage.
Yeah.
Topolage. Is that with an O or with an A?
Well, Bez, if you disagree, my friend, let me know, and I'll change it for the next commentary. But that's what I was told anyway. That's yeah,
I
that
think
was
I've been saying Topolai, I think, for most of the season, but I think Topolage sounds just as right. I think.
yeah,
There, to be fair, I think after you left on Saturday, the Shots media were talking about Laurent Tolage, who
yes.
used to play for them.
Mhm.
He'd been pronouncing it as Tolai for a long, long time. And then he did an interview with I think Plymouth when he went to Plymouth, saying like how it's pronounced Talaj, and it was about his ancestry and stuff. And he was like, I've been pronouncing it for so long for Tolai, and no one told me until he's gone to Plymouth. But yes, Bassat Topalaj has had a very mixed 4 days. I think it's fair to say he was very up and down on Saturday. There was the incident in the penalty box, which, if anyone hasn't seen what happened, make your own mind up. I think again after you left on Saturday, the I'm going to assume the videographer was sat behind me near the exit to the press box, and he got the replay up. I didn't see it because I was busy sending off the interviews and such. But the shots media were gathered around it, and they were very passionate about what they thought it should have been rather than what it actually was.
Mm.
And then basically for the next sort of 70 minutes or so, the fans were bullying him. He was a little bit edgy, I think it's fair to say as well, going forward and coming back. I mean, we were itching for him to score on Saturday. It's a shame that it took him till Tuesday to score. And he's had a lot better of a time at Gateshead, part of the back four that kept a clean sheet and obviously went forward and got the winner.
Yeah, the incident, for those who didn't see, it was a coming together, as we say sometimes in the commentary, also known in Stockton as mate, he just shoved him in the chest. Do you know what I mean? So, yeah, it was. I thought there was a massive overreaction from the Aldershot player. I have to be honest. I mean, he went down as if he was, Tom Daly going off the top board and all that sort of jazz. But um, look, I think a yellow card at the time for me was probably about right. Of course, I'm sure Aldershot will uh, disagree with that, and football is all about opinions, and that's why we love it.
To be
But
fair, I think I can get a couple of thousand shots fans who were there on Saturday who'll disagree with that, given the atmosphere that was produced as a result.
yeah, and rightly so. If it was the other way around, I'm sure Pools fans we would have all been screaming that
Absolutely,
it
we
was a
would.
red card as well. So it's one of those type of situations. But yeah, and I thought he struggled for a little bit after that, just in terms of the reaction that he was getting, because the Aldershot ground, again, for any of those who haven't been, the main stand is really close to the side of the pitch. So if you are on the side that Bez was on that first half, sort of down the near side as we're watching it, you can hear everything, and there was certainly a few thousand, or a couple of thousand, just giving him what for every time he touched the ball. And thankfully, last night, I thought, he took his goal really well, had a couple of opportunities, does that brilliantly, getting forward and just cutting in, getting his shot off. So I've been quietly sort of like impressed with him, as well as obviously Jay Ben. There was a lot of question marks over the full-backs after the departure of Ferguson and Dan Dodds, but they've come in, settled in really well. And similar to Harvey Cartwright, they haven't looked back in those particular positions.
It's good that you mentioned David Ferguson actually, because of course he plays for Gateshead now. He said in the summer on a social media post he didn't want to leave the club. He saw himself retiring at the club, and at the end of the day, things happen, and he moved on to Gateshead. Last night, I thought there was a couple of times where Jermaine Francis used his pace to very good effect. There was a moment, certainly in the first half, where he blazed past Ferguson and was brought down for a free kick. But on the whole, I thought he caught pretty well. And then when he came off eventually after Poole scored, which again didn't come down his side either. So, credit to him for that. He locked us down pretty well that side. But he came off, and he came off on the side of the Pools fans. And there was quite a warm moment where, the entirety of the Pools fans applauded him as he walked around the pitch, as you do when you come off at the nearest side. And he applauded them back. I just thought it was a lovely way. Despite a bit of criticism that he's received over the last season or two, as opposed to sort of his lack of mobility, as some people might have seen it. But it was a lovely moment, I thought.
Yeah, and I spoke to Ferguson after the game last night. We did an interview with him before the game as well, and he just reiterated what he'd said over the summer in that statement, which is that look, he saw himself at Pools for the long term. He loves the club, still does, has a real affinity for it. Um, Certainly has a real affinity for the fan base, and I think you could see that last night when he came off. And yeah, I think circumstances led to his departure over the summer. I think if he had his way, he would have stayed. Again, I know he divides opinion, and I know he became a bit of a Marmite character for some towards the end of his time at Pools. But what a servant to the football club! Part of a fantastic team. At one point, he was by far the best fullback in the National League. Was part of that hugely successful team that got promoted. Was then also part of the team that got relegated back into the National League. And yeah, sort of split opinion a little bit. But I think even if you are the most critical person of David Ferguson, I'd like to think even those fans would be able to appreciate the service that he gave to Pools and the 5 seasons, 5 years that he gave to the club. And yeah, nice to see a sort of it's nice to see a relatively happy ending to it, if that makes sense. Often we see players leave Pools in like a cloud of frustration and anger and whatever else, but nice to see for this on this occasion for somebody who gave so much to the club and got so much back from the club as well. That there was a mutual respect there at the game, and I think Alan Armstrong had said he did that on purpose. So he brought Ferguson off before the full time whistle, so he could go over and show his appreciation to the fans, and he could also receive that acclaim back as well. So yeah, really nice moment and thoroughly deserved. And I really hope that he gets a good reception back at the Vic when Gateshead come to town. I know he was saying to me last night before the ball was kicked, he was like, "Oh, I wonder what type of reaction I'm going to get." And it was nice to see that he did get a good reaction.
Yeah, I mean, it was heartening to see. I think pretty much to a man, I was sat pretty much level with the halfway line, so most of the fans were to my right hand side. But it just felt like, it was nicely timed as well, given that we just went 1-0 up. Because if we'd been winning, I'm not saying he wouldn't have got an ovation, but I think people would have been a bit more grumpy, shall we say, and maybe he's a little bit less inclined to show appreciation to an opposition
Mm.
player. I mean, you mentioned there he's been with us for 5 years. It felt like so much longer than five
Yeah, it did.
years because I remember I think it was last season, in my first season doing the podcast, I mentioned, about Ferguson's service. I think it might have been when we were discussing who we'd release in the summer. And I just said offhand, like about 8, 9 years of service. It'd be nice to see him get to his testimonial. And someone was like, no, he's only been with us since like the promotion season. I was like, you're joking. I genuinely thought he'd been here for longer than he had. But as you mentioned, he was very successful for us in that season. I don't think things that have happened in the last couple of years should really tarnish the service. And as we've always said, ability can fluctuate, if you like. You can become a little bit worse as you get older. It's natural to do so. But as long as you're putting the effort in every week and as long as, you're giving your all when you're on the pitch, I don't think it's something necessarily that the fans will complain about, certainly.
Yeah, and just on that as well, and you got to remember as the fact that for a lot of the back end of his time at the club, he was pretty much the only the only recurring player in an ever-changing back four or back three. I mean, the amount
Yeah.
of centre backs and the amount of makeshift centre backs and right backs that Pools went through in those latter seasons of David Ferguson's time at the club, he was the only one. And I know that is, you speak to Mickey Barron, you speak to other players at the club who've played those positions, and they talk about just how difficult that is when, maybe one game you're playing with somebody who likes it into feet. Next time you're playing with somebody who you can't give it back to them when they're under pressure on the edge of their own area. Then the next week after that, you're playing with somebody who you've always got to keep an eye on. You've got to tell them where to go and where to be. And so there's a lot of things that went along with David Ferguson's last season and a half, where he really started to divide opinion, I think. And I would just, yeah, I just think it unfairly treated. Maybe, maybe. I don't know. People have their own opinions, and everybody again is entitled to theirs. And I am certainly nobody to say whose opinion is right and whose opinion is wrong, because there is no such thing. It is your opinion, and that is, like I say, very, very important. But I do think just at times he was maybe a little bit of a scapegoat for wider issues at the football club, because he was so ever present, and we've seen it over the years. Nicky Featherstone for a time was widely debated, and widely sort of split the fan base. Some loved him, some hated him. And I think that ended up coming full circle. So yeah, again, nice that last night there was that bit of a appreciation from Ferguson to the fans, and from the fans to Ferguson as well.
Yes, absolutely. And the last thing on Gateshead, I think Danny Johnson coming on not too late. I think he get about 15 minutes plus added time, if I remember rightly.
Yeah.
I said to my auntie yesterday as well, it was a bit of an irony that once we went 1-0 up, Simon Grayson finally went to two up top. He waited until we'd already scored and we were finally in front and thought, well, let's chuck two strikers on, see
Yeah,
what happen from there. But specifically on Danny Johnson, I think he's had a very mixed start to his career at Pools. I think a lot of people would say that. He was good in pre-season, net of the
mm,
goals. He stayed in and around the 6 yard box and he was very good in that close range area. But since this season started, obviously he's lost his place for better or for worse, and he hasn't really looked like the player that we thought we were getting. But I thought last night, to be fair to him, again, he didn't score, but he had a few moments where he got on the ball. He showed a little bit more in terms
mm,
of on the ball. And I mean, that last minute where I think it was before Cartwright saved, but where he turned
it
the
was.
defender and he went through on goal on the right, and you just thought, this is the moment. This has to be the moment. And even though he didn't score, he still kept the ball for longer than he could have done. And it was a lot better from him last night, I think.
Yeah, yeah, I totally agree. And that passage of play you're talking about, I remember seeing the ball go into him, and him being, close to the halfway line, then the edge of the box, put it that way. And it was almost like you blinked and he'd got past the defender, and it was like, oh, hang on a minute, he's in here. And everybody was just sort of on the edge of the seat, waiting and hoping that this would be the moment. Obviously, it wasn't. He quickly got crowded out, but did really well to keep hold of it and keep the move sort of going. But I still, I will die on this hill, Jack. I really will. There is a player there. There absolutely is. We all know it. He is a goal scorer. He will score goals for Hartlepool United. I have no doubt about it. It's just clear, Pools in general, the defence apart, have been going through a little bit of crisis of confidence of late, given results and whatnot, and missed opportunities in front of goal. I think he has fallen victim to that as well, just as much as Alex Reid has, who had opportunities last night. I said in commentary on BBC Radio T Sport that the goal that Poole scored, where Alex Reid managed to slot it away, and I put it to Jonathan Franks, and I said, "I tell you what, I really hope that is a little bit of a springboard for Alex Reid, or just a little boost of confidence, because even though he was offside, if you're offside and still miss, then it's on your mind. But if you're offside and you still manage to slot it away, and it was a really tidy finish as
It
well,
was, it was a very good finish.
right into the far corner, low down past the keeper. If it wasn't for the offside flag, he would have been really pleased with that finish, I think. So hopefully, again, that's just further evidence that Alex Reid hasn't, just magically lost his goal scoring touch, and it is still in there. And I think the same is true for Danny Johnson. I think the pair of them were really good signings when they joined in the summer, and I still think that there's clearly plenty more to come from them. I think this is just one of those spells, and they will both turn good. And I'm sure on your podcast, Jack, at some point this season, you'll be sat here talking about Danny Johnson and how great he's been in the last few weeks, because, like I said, there's definitely a player in there. It's just a case of form, and all strikers go through that. This is just his time.
Absolutely. If you look at his form for previous clubs, he had that purples patch at Walsall, I think, where
Yeah.
he got
Uh,
basically, I think it was one in 2 games, one every 2 games or something like
Yeah,
that,
he
wasn't
got
it?
got a few against Pools on the opening day as well. I remember that one under Mr. Hartley, whose name we
Well, I
should
was
not.
well, I was going to say it's probably easy to get a hat trick against Paul Hartley's teams, but Yeah, the less said about that, the better. I was thinking about going that day as well, and I thought, oh, I'll give it a miss. I think there was another one I wanted to go to in the month, and then thought, thank God I didn't go. Oh,
I remember being at that game and the full time whistle went, and Joe Ramage, who was previously the Hartlepool Mail and a really good journalist and a lovely
yeah.
bloke, and I remember me and him turned to each other at the full time whistle after that first game of the season away at Walsall. Danny Johnson getting a couple of goals and Pools losing 4-0, and we both just puffed our cheeks and went, oh, this is going to be a long season. It already feels like a long season. It's only been 90 minutes, and sadly, so it proved. But yeah, hopefully, Danny Johnson can refind similar form that he punished Pools with at Walsall.
And with regards to Alex Reid as well, I mean that finish on yesterday that you mentioned, where he slotted it away, I just couldn't help but think to myself, where was that finish on Saturday? Where he had about what 4 or 5 good chances at
Yeah.
least. What was it that you said afterwards about was it the go-go hand? You say
Yeah, so it was
tried
like a
to round the
go-go. Yeah,
keeper.
yeah, it was like a go-go gadget hand, wasn't it? It was like go-go gadget, big hand, and then out it came to deny him after he'd done the difficult part, didn't he? He sat the goalkeeper down, just trying to walk it round him, and then the keeper just grew an arm out of nowhere to snatch it away off his toes right at the vital moment. But again, similar, it will come for Alex Reid. He's already shown what he can do. 3 and 3 at one point earlier in the season. Okay, he's now without a goal in seven, but yeah, I think there'll be many column inches and minutes spoken about Alex Reid come the end of the season, and hopefully it's all positive and about how he's fired Pools up the league, him and Danny Johnson.
Absolutely, and hopefully Verdane Oliver and Nathan Ferguson can
Yeah.
both slot in as well. We haven't seen too much of Nathan Ferguson. I think he's been on for what 5 minutes last night, and that's pretty much everything. Verdane Oliver we've seen a little bit more of. I'm sure we'll get to see what he's about as the season goes on as well. One thing we haven't really spoken about so far is the midfield. It's been rotated in the last few weeks. I think one person that a lot of people have felt has been a bit unfortunate to be rotated as much as he has is Jamie Miley, who
Mm.
hit the ground running to an extent last season. And it's not that he hasn't been favoured because he's still played quite a few games, but he's been sort of rotated for Brad Walker mostly a lot of the time. Matty Daly's played quite a few games. Do you feel he's a bit unfortunate to be out of the squad as much as he has been?
I think there's two sides to this, and one is that the it seemed I thought last night was a little bit horses for courses in the sense of Gateshead's Gateshead and their mate, everybody I spoke to last night ahead of the Gateshead game from a Gateshead persuasion, every single one of them said to me, "We don't have an out and out striker because Dom Telford has been injured for some time. Kane
And thank the
Adom,
Lord, because if anyone can remember that game against Crawley where we went down,
yeah, I remember
he
it.
tortured us. Remember
Yeah,
that goal that was like literally just launched over the top and he just scored? Like it was
yeah,
the easiest goal you'll ever see in your life.
yeah. And talk about confidence. He was absolutely brimming with confidence that season for
Oh yeah.
Crawley. But I think, yeah, in terms of Gateshead, they don't have an out and out striker, albeit Adom's got six and is a winger playing as a centre forward and seemingly doing pretty well apart from last night. Um, Dom Telford out injured. The other main thing for them is that their midfield, and these are not my words, these are things that people have said to me last night, was that the midfield is far too easy to play through. It is far too easy, and there's too many kids in there. And then I thought it was interesting that last night they went with Curtis Edwards 31. They went with Jacob Butterfield 35, and then they had Fenton John, who's a young Middlesbrough Academy graduate, who's 21. And in reply, Pools went with Nathan Sherron and with Brad Walker over Jamie Miley. And I just wonder if that was a little bit of Simon Grayson seeing how young up until last night Gateshead had gone in the midfield and trying to back experience over maybe the youth in Jamie Miley. Um, Interestingly, Jonathan Franks revealed last night that he actually went up to Newcastle to do some coaching a few seasons ago, and this Jamie Miley was at Newcastle at that point,
Yep.
and he said he played more like a number eight than a number six, as he was sort of employed last night. He was as that defensive, as often as he is alongside Sharon as that defensive
Yeah.
midfield pairing. And he said, I really liked him as a number eight. He was really impressive as a number eight. He just needs to be a little bit braver at times, and not necessarily in the challenge, but in terms of getting the ball and carrying it.
Progressing the forward.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, being brave enough to carry the ball forward. Um, and that was really interesting because I only ever associated Jamie Miley with that sort of position that he's been playing with Pools, which is a more sort of a more sort of deeper role anyway. So that is I thought that was fascinating because I just didn't see Jamie Miley in that position. So is he being asked to do something that is unnatural to him? Well, he's shown that he can do it. Last season, he did it very well. We know his range of passing is brilliant. Probably one of the best in the squad for his range of passing. I'd like to think that it was just a case last night of rotating the squad and in Simon Grayson seeing perhaps a weakness in Gateshead that he felt Brad Walker with a little bit more composure on the ball, with a little bit more experience, alongside Nathan Sherrin, which we all know is the sort of the steel in the midfield, that bite in the midfield, was just the better option at the time. Jamie Miley, I'm sure will have his day again for Pools, probably on Saturday against Tamworth. Let's hope. His range of passing is absolutely fantastic. We've seen that time and time again, and I think he's only going to get better. He's still a good age, and hopefully he can grow with Pools. But yeah, maybe a little bit unfortunate last night. Certainly was. I raised my eyebrows when I saw that he was on the bench, but then after having a chat with Jonathan Franks, who's our expert summariser last night, kind of could understand why Grayson had maybe made the decision that he did.
Yeah, and speaking of Jonathan Franks, the Radio T's account on BBC Sounds, as I've seen you retweeted earlier on, you've posted a little bite-size section of highlights from
Yeah.
the match last night as well. Obviously, something I assume you'll be looking to do going forward. But what did you think? Sort of that was something that you could potentially do. Obviously, for away games only at this point. Hopefully, that gets resolved soon. But is that just sort of like a different perspective, perhaps while things are going on? Just sort of something to sum up the game, if you like.
Yeah, so it's something I have to mention Alex Hodgson, who at Tees, who does a lot of good work for Pools as well. But it was an idea that he had, and we thought we'd trial it out. So years ago, this is going back years and years, probably over 10 years now. But we used to do full highlights packages. So when Brian Arundale was the Pools commentator before Ivan Ash, and Paul Addison was doing the Middlesbrough commentary, and then on to Ali Brownlee. My first job at Tees was editing all the match highlights of Brian Arundale, of Ivan Ash, of Alistair Brownlee, Ali Brownlee. And that was one thing we used to do. So now we just do the goals, very short, succinct. These are the goals, bang, and we end the show on them. Whereas previously we used to take the shots, any major goal scoring opportunities, obviously red cards, disallowed goals, all the major talking points in games, and we'd compact that all down into around about a 3 minute 30-second package that told the story of the game. And yeah, Alex mentioned it and said, why don't we try this and see, at the minute our pools offering, our pools content is slightly more reduced than we would like because of the circumstances. But it was just a way of how can we capitalize and use what we can do, and how can we highlight it and still be able to produce content for Hartlepool United fans that we love to do. We'd love to do more of it, obviously. So yeah, I think it's going to be something that we're going to do for every game that where they're commentating on. So at the minute, that is just away games. But for every game, there will be an extended highlights package. And if I can, Jack, just nudge people in the direction. This is my BBC head coming on now.
Yeah, yeah.
BBC Sounds, and it's new for this season. And genuinely, I use this a lot and I say it on commentary. People think I probably get paid commission to say it, and I don't. I wish I did, but I use it all the time. If you don't have BBC Sounds, just download it. You can download it on your phone, and all you have to do is in the search bar, search Hartlepool United, and you can subscribe. There's a dedicated Hartlepool United page. So anything that we ever do with regards to Hartlepool United, we put on there. And if you hit the subscribe button, you get a little notification every time the second something drops on that page. So the extended highlights package, for example, any interviews that we do, any fans panels, any journalist panels with the various fans and journalists that we have on, all of that goes up on there, and you get a little notification, and you can listen to it whenever you want in your own time. So it's definitely something that we're going to be doing more going forward, just to try and again, give Pools fans the content that we know they enjoy, and hopefully we'll be able to bring them more of it. Yeah, hopefully soon.
Yeah, I mean, I can vouch for a lot of what you just said there in terms of BBC Sounds. It's quite easy to find, as you said, searching it in the search bar. And I definitely don't get paid commission for this. But I don't work for the BBC, so if I'm saying it, it's there's no suspicions there. Definitely wasn't something that was messaged to me saying Rob will only come on the show if I mention.
No, it's certainly not.
No,
It's not on my rider.
no, it's
Neither
certainly.
are only blue M&Ms either. You don't believe what people say.
No, certainly not. But yeah, it's a good app all round to be fair. So I like me Five Lives and stuff like that, and
Yeah.
10 to the Top as well. If you've ever played that on Radio 2 with Vernon Kay, I get the information for that as well. But yeah, it's a very easy app to use, and certainly if you're working on a Saturday, if you can't get to, I think our next away game, if I'm not counting.
Carlisle on
I know it's
Wednesday.
Carlisle next Wednesday,
Yeah.
but I'm not counting that. I'm talking about like the
Why
ones
why are
on
you not counting that?
because I'm going to that one. I'm thinking
Oh,
about the next
okay.
one that I'm not seeing. Probably Sutton, isn't it? Because there's a trophy date, isn't there, on
Mhm.
the 11th, which we haven't got yet because the round hasn't completed, so we don't know the draw yet. So at the moment, it's Sutton away, isn't it, on the
Yeah.
18th, which is the one that's on the television. So that's a nice late trip for
Hmm.
you, isn't it?
I
Uh,
know, yeah. No, we were just talking about how we're going to do that the last week in the office. The one that I really have no idea, so I'm open to suggestions to anybody listening. Is Truro away in March? How the best to do that? So suggestions, please.
I would suggest bribing DAZN to put it on television and then subscribe.
Yeah, I don't think that'll be happening.
Uh,
So we will be there. It's just how we're going to get there and back.
without spending a mortgage.
Yes, yeah, exactly. So with it being in the within the budget and all that sort of stuff that we have to think about. But no, yeah, the Sutton game being a 5:30 kickoff certainly makes it interesting for the poolies who are, will travel and turn up as we always know. They always sing it Saturday, every Saturday we follow, and they certainly do. And I'm sure Sutton will be no different, even though it is a 5:30 kickoff. Ridiculous.
It is ridiculous, and not only is it ridiculous, it's not even what DAZN refer to as enhanced coverage. It's not even enhanced coverage either. So what's the point in moving it to half five? Honestly,
Ah, yeah,
it's ridiculous.
yeah,
But
yeah.
yeah, I mean, I'm surprised that next Saturday's wasn't on DAZN because it was moved to half 12 anyway because of the
Mm,
police. So you just
mm,
think like if you're looking at the schedule, the game that's already at half 12 featuring two Northeast teams, you just think it'd be natural fit. But no, Gateshead
yeah.
v Boston's apparently more attractive to the TV audience. Very
This is
strange.
you know that Jose Mourinho meme where he says, "If I speak, I'm in trouble."
Yes, I think
I
so.
feel I feel
Yeah,
I feel that's probably yeah. We
probably.
we
Yeah,
could we could say a lot about scheduling and that sort of stuff, couldn't we?
we
I think a
could,
lot of
but
people would agree with it as well.
we could. I mean, to be fair, with regards to the Truro run, I reckon Newquay's probably a good bet in terms of flying to Newquay from Newcastle at this point,
Well, do you
and
know
then
what I
getting a
did?
taxi over.
Do you know what I did? Employ the expertise of Eddie Kyle, who
As a holiday
despite
home in Truro.
yeah, well, basically, so he not only is he clearly a Pools legend and somebody I consider as a very close friend and just yeah, an all-round good man. He, as we were driving to Forest Green away, I managed to
Well,
drag him out of retirement. Jack, you see, I was like, Eddie, do you fancy it? And Jean, his wife, was like, Edward, you going? He's
You
like,
dragged
he
him
had
out
no,
of retirement and
yeah.
gave him Forest Green away.
He loved the burgers, Jack. He loved the vegan
Well, at
burgers.
least
No,
someone does.
well, no, I jest. I don't think he was very impressed that I dragged him to uh, yes, the epicenter of vegan foods. But on that trip down to Forest Green, he did ask me. He said, "What are you going to do for Truro Way?" And I went, "That's a really good question." And then because he used to be a travel agent, or he used to own a travel agent, which is still in Yarm High Street. He went, "Let me have a little look for you." And he pulled out his phone and he started going through all the airlines that fly to Newquay. Well, you could get this flight out of this airport and then it lands here. And then you could do this and you could get a hire car or you could get a taxi or you could do. And then, oh, no, you can't do that because you won't get back in time. And honestly, it was like having my own personal travel agent there in the car down to Forest Green with me. If
Oh,
only
wow.
if only there was like a little camera there that captured it, people would have thought it was like some sort of carry-on film. But no, it's yeah. Even Eddie Kyle struggled to figure out a way in which we could do that in a sensible way. But we'll figure it out and we'll be there, no doubt.
Absolutely. I mean, I'm against my better judgment. If I'm not working that Saturday, I'm considering it. But I think the last time I looked, I think it's well over 7 hours, isn't it? If I remember
Oh
right.
yeah, yeah, yeah,
That's
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I think isn't it like 440 miles or something from stadium to stadium or something like that? It's something mammoth.
When they got promoted, I text John Askey and I went, "Oh, congratulations, John! You know, looking forward to seeing you next
But I wish he
season."
hadn't come up.
And I said, thanks because of you. This will be the longest domestic journey I've ever made for a football game." And as we all know, following Hartlepool United, there are very, very, very long journeys,
Indeed.
just as standard. But this one is especially long. So yeah, it's I'm kind of I am looking forward to it though. You know, the fact that it is so far away and it is a new ground to tick off and all that sort of stuff. I'm sure the Poolies will be there in good numbers despite the long journey. But if anybody's sort of chartering a yacht or anything like that, or a little boat that'll take us from the northeast all the way round to Newquay, then yeah, count me in, please. Add me onto the list.
Fair point. I mean, to be fair, yacht going round the country, I think that'd be a very scenic route. I
Yeah,
think
why
is the.
not? Why not?
I mean, to be fair, we talk about Truro coming up. We mentioned on the podcast last season about the title race and not in the National League South. There were 6 teams in with a shout on the final day of
Yeah.
winning that division. I mean, one of them, I think, who finished in second was Torquay. So if we hadn't have gotten Truro, you might well have got Torquay, and it's pretty much the same anyway.
Yeah, but we've been to Torquay before, haven't we? So it's like,
We have.
Truro's something a little bit different.
It's
So
a novelty. I think we've said that before as
yeah,
well on here. It is a novelty. It's a curiosity as well, and
yeah.
I mean, they are probably favourites to go down, or certainly one of the favourites to go down. So it may well be one of those one and done situations where
Mm.
if you don't do it now, we may not play them again for a little while. Hopefully, it'll be because we've gone up by then and we'll never
Yes,
play them again.
yeah,
But
fingers crossed.
yeah, it'll be certainly interesting. Middle of March as well, so it's
Mm.
it's not in the December months where it's going to be -3 or something like that. Not that it's ever
Imagine
been -3 in Cornwall.
no, but imagine it takes you 2 days to get there, or whatever, a week and a half, however long you want to drag it out for. But you finally get there, and then 10 minutes before kickoff, the referee looks at the ground and goes,
Do you know what?
"It's a bit
I,
hard, that lads. Sorry, going to call it off. It's going to be on Tuesday night instead."
do you know what? I think Pools fans would get flamethrowers out and take them to the pitch, wouldn't they? They would
Again, I just
demand to go ahead.
Again, I'd bring Eddie Kyle with us because the story that he's told me many a times, and people have probably heard this before, which was the epic Crystal Palace tie at the Vic when he was assistant manager, and it was a very cold afternoon that particular day, and Crystal Palace wanted the game postponed and were doing everything to try and get the game postponed. And Eddie Kyle turned up onto the pitch with his shorts on, and he's in his like the really small t-shirt on, and just going, What's wrong with the weather? There's nothing wrong. This is practically summer up here. Behave. Let's get on with the game." And then obviously what happened, and Pools had an unforgettable afternoon. So we just employ Eddie Kyle for things like this. You see, we just drag him with us, and then he can sort of managed to twist the arm of referees if anybody thinks about postponing it after traveling 4 days to get there.
Do you know what? I think Brian Honor mentioned that game to me as well. And this is my time for a plug now. Brian Honor's special episode that we did in April. I also did Jim
Nice.
Porter in January, plugging everything. But yeah, Brian Honor mentioned that game actually. Is that the one with the Savile penalty to win? I'm guessing, yeah. And it was the one where he kept getting ragged around by, oh, what's his name? The striker for Palace. He was calling them all sorts, Brian, on. He was well, to be fair, he didn't actually. He took the classy route, but he was sort of saying like, "Well, what on earth are you talking about?" I'm sure he played for Sheffield Wednesday as well.
Oh,
Oh, it's
yeah.
gonna haunt me that until I look at it after we've finished recording. It's on the it's like smoke at the end of your mind. You can't grab onto the thought. I know it, but I can't remember it. I'll have to give up on that one because I cannot remember. But a quick look ahead to the next couple of games. We mentioned Carlisle already, but we've got Tamworth before that home and
Mhm.
Carlisle away and York at home, all in the space of that 7 or 8 day period. Can you see a positive return from that? I know Carlisle and York are very difficult games. It's fair to say. Tamworth is a lot more reasonable in terms of potentially getting a win there. If you look at the result last night as well, York and Carlisle, York very much run and ride over
Blew him
Carlisle.
out the water, didn't he?
Yeah, I don't
Absolutely,
think
yeah.
anyone saw that coming, but yeah, can you see a potentially positive return from that?
I hope so. I think York is going to be the toughest out of the bunch. Carlisle, what will that defeat do to them from last night? That could be a big knock for them. Be interesting to see how they respond at the weekend after that 4-0 thumping by York. But yeah, I think that will be the trickiest of the lot. Tamworth, I don't think should be underestimated. I think they've won 4 of the last 5 now. Um, so they are, it's not the same Tamworth that Pools came up against last season, and a very different outfit this time round, and steadily, quietly kind of going about their business. So I think that one is a potential banana skin, but look, hopefully Pools will be full of confidence after last night and will turn up on Saturday and put in a really strong performance and get the win. Carlisle, I do think is winnable. People may puff their cheeks out at me for that, but I do think there is an opportunity there if Pools meet them at the right time in terms of Pool's confidence going up, Carlisle's confidence potentially coming down, maybe. And then the York one is a big test. That is the measuring stick to see, after Forest Green, the last measuring stick, they are just absolutely running away with it at the minute. But York City, I think, is going to be the next real challenge of where are Pools this season, against some of the quote unquote big teams, and Pools are one of the big teams as well, of course. But how close can they get to the likes of York and Forest Green? So yeah, I think a positive return, but Tamworth on Saturday um, just has the potential to be a banana skin. Let's hope that it's not. So yeah, I am mildly confident that there will be a win or two in there at least, hopefully.
Yeah, we'll take mildly confident. I think Tamworth was a very strange situation last season where I think we beat them away. We drew at home. That was the sequence in February where we basically ruined our season with those home games,
Mm,
and obviously the FA Trophy defeat as well
yeah.
at home on penalties, where everyone in the Hartlepool United squad forgot how to take a penalty. If I remember
Yeah, it
rightly,
was a
they all
bizarre.
missed. It
Yeah,
was
it was bizarre
awful.
that night.
Yes, but yeah. So hopefully that goes for us. As you mentioned, Carlisle depends on how they bounce back. Because if they come back on Saturday, I don't know who they're playing on Saturday. But if they come back on Saturday and say win 5-0, I'll be a lot more fearful because it
Yeah.
shows that they've bounced back very well. And then York, as you say,
Well,
it'd be just like York, wouldn't it, to nick it 1-0 and Joe Gray scores in the 90th minute.
Carlisle are playing Rochdale
Oh, that's a
on
good game, isn't
on
it?
Saturday.
Is it at
Rochdale.
Rochdale? Because it'll probably get postponed if it is.
Well, it's actually I'm just checking now. It's actually at Carlisle,
All right, that should be all right.
so it should be all right. But yeah, Rochdale, come on, Manny Disarue, do us a favour, get one of those elusive hat tricks. Whenever he scores a brace this season, I've just texted him and saying, "Are you allergic to hat tricks?" So just, just to make sure his feet stay on the ground.
To
He
be
doesn't
fair,
get
he,
too.
he really liked scoring a brace for us, didn't he? If I remember rightly, like
Yeah, he
they
scored one
went for
hat
so
trick.
long.
I think he'd gone. he'd gone something ridiculous like 2.5 years, maybe even more, without scoring a hat trick. And then the one afternoon where he scored a hat trick for Pools,
Came off the
I,
bench at half time.
he did, yeah, but I wasn't there because it was
I remember that actually.
me and my wife's anniversary, wedding anniversary. So I was away, and he walked into the press box, and Matty Nixon, who's doing the commentary that afternoon, is a very good commentator, and in his own right. And Manny Dizarue walked in the press box and went, "Oh, where's Rob?" And he's like, he's away with his wife on the wedding anniversary. And I was like, the one time you score a hat trick, it's the one time I'm not there. How selfish of you, Manny Dizarue. But no, hopefully he gets one of those elusive hat tricks against Carlisle on Saturday, and it just compounds things a little bit for Carlisle. Pools can get a win against Tamworth, and the emotional roller coaster that is the National League will see one team full of confidence, one team low on confidence, and Pools can capitalise on that at Carlisle next week ahead of York.
Absolutely. And thank you very much for joining me today, Rob. It's been a pleasure, I'd say, as always, but this is the first time. Hopefully, it won't be the last. I assure you of that. But yeah, hopefully, obviously, your personal situation gets sorted soon. It's a big loss to everyone not to have you in the ground for that. And obviously, we will hear you again on the airwaves against Carlisle next week.
Yes.
I mean, to be fair, I may well be in the press box for that myself, so I'll have a front row seat for that. But yeah, for everyone else listening, say I'm sure it'll be a pleasure. And say we'll see you somewhere down the road. Thank you very much. And as we say, if anyone does have any Truro plans for March, Rob is always
Yes,
available. I'm sure he'll
please.
give you his email and you can sort something out with him. Just charge him 50 quid for petrol, he'll be fine.
Oh, yeah, I'll chip in with snacks as well. I'm good company on away days.
Oh, I've already seen what happens in the press box when you lot bring
Yeah,
snacks. It's very,
it's
we've had it
serious.
all.
It's very serious business. The snack business in broadcasting.
Well,
It's
yeah, I brought orange Cadbury's orange fingers on Saturday, and then obviously Aldershot have like a set sort of seating arrangement, if you like. So obviously all the radio people are on the front row, so I was nowhere near you anyway. I couldn't do you. But I'm sure I'll bring something next week for Carlisle. But thank you very much, Rob. Hopefully you have a good
no
day.
no problem. Thank you for having me. And yeah, I'll speak to everybody at Carlisle away on Wednesday.
Carlisle, thank you very much.
Thank you.